Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to part 1 of what is probably my most ambitious and probably the coolest thing I'm gonna do for a little while on this channel. So, this is a PC build that I've been thinking about for about the past month, ever since I built my super tiny ITX gaming PC that had an i7 7700 and a GTX Titan X Pascal. And from then on, I was like, okay, this is cool, but what if I could do it cooler and do something that, as far as I can tell, no other person, well, a public person, because someone may have done this in private, but I don't know, but no other YouTuber has actually done. And that's take an ITX motherboard, put it in a very tiny case, and still manage to get more than one PCI Express card. Because not only am I going to get a Quadro RTX 4000, more on those air quotes in the next part, but I'm also going to get a high-speed, high-resolution capture card in there. Yes, 2 PCI Express cards in a motherboard that only has one PCI Express slot. This is going to be an awesome build, assuming I don't completely fail, and this turns into the video where I'm like, my most expensive fail ever. So let's just hope that doesn't happen. But in part 1, we're not going to be doing PCIe cards yet. We're going to be building up our motherboard. So, what are we doing for our motherboard? Well, as you already saw, this is the X299 ITX from Azerock, and what I like to call the ITX 299, and I call this board the ITX 299 because the X's match and, you know, it sounds cool, yay. This thing is freaking awesome, okay? Let's talk about the features. So first of all, we have our CPU in there. And I got the idea, because the specs of that PC were pretty mild. An i7 7700, I had to use a slim nocturnal cooler to fit in the case, a GTX Titan X Pascal, which I guess is cool, but, you know, it's just a regular old Titan, nothing special about it, and air cooling in the 500 watt Silverstone power supply in the tiny case. But I thought about that, I'm like, you know, there's way better parts, and there's some room in here in this case, and I was like, I wonder if we could fit better components in this case. So, I went on eBay and Amazon and Newegg and some other really shady websites, and I got my hands on some really interesting parts. Starting with our CPU for this build. I really wanted to, and I was finally able to figure it out, to get an Intel X series CPU in this build. This is the Core i7-9800X. Now, technically, I could use a 7980XE, 9980XE, etc., but I can't afford it. So this was the best CPU in the X series that I could actually afford to purchase. So, sorry, but basically, just pretend I'm using way better parts than I am. Because, I don't make a lot of money. But for today, we're going to be building out our motherboard. I paid way too much money for this, as it's kind of an older board, came out a couple years ago, about 2017, so it's really hard to find now how to get it used from China, and, you know. But let's talk about what's so cool about this board. So, what I talk about, if you want to watch my whole video on it, you know, you can find that video on my channel. It's called The Coolest Motherboard I've Ever Owned, which basically explains all of the features. But just to give a quick summary of it, it's got 4 SODIMM slots to allow our CPU to use its full bandwidth quad channel memory, which is insane for an ITX board because they usually only have 2 full-size DIMM slots. This uses laptop memory, typically laptop memory, I should say. It's not strictly laptop memory, obviously. To get 4 DIMM slots. It's got a PCI Express 16X slot, pretty good I/O. It's got Wi-Fi, and of course the main thing, our LGA 2066 socket. It also has 3 M.2 slots, 2 on the back, 1 on a SODIMM.2 add-in card, which I thought was really cool, and that's really it. So, that's what we're going to be building up today. Now, as you saw, we have already put our CPU in, and it actually has some thermal paste on it, which I'm just going to go ahead and leave because I don't care, and I just put it on to test it. And the reason I'm not going to, take it out and put it back in just for the video is because I can't get another one of these boards. It is not possible. I don't have, the money, as in I don't want to spend another $400 on this board. And secondly, it'll take forever to get here because I had to get it from China, so it already took forever, and I got a special deal from the manufacturer who will not give me another deal. Now, one thing you'll notice, I'm building this on top of a Titan RTX box. Yeah. What are we putting in this build today on this motherboard? First things first, let's start with our memory. And this memory is just something special. These are 4 16GB DDR4 SODIMMs for a total of 60. Oh god, I don't want to drop it. For a total of 64 gigabytes of memory. This is DDR4 2666, which is the max speed for the CPU as far as I know. I believe it is 2666, but please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, or don't, I don't care. These things are cool. I picked these up at Micro Center for about $109 a kit for 2 kits. About $200 in memory, and I just love these. I love desktop boards with SODIMM memory. They're pretty rare, obviously, but man, there's something special about putting in SODIMMs like this, because typically on a laptop they are mounted kind of sideways, like this. If you're looking at the board, they're mounted like that, not vertical, because obviously then your laptop would have to be at least this thick in order to work, so that's why they have them mounted like this. So something special about mounting SODIMMs like this. So we're going to put our SODIMMs in. They mount like regular DDR4 full size, but they're just, I love this. I can't tell you enough how awesome I think ITX boards with SODIMM memory on it are. It's so cool, and I'm actually so happy right now to be building this. So we have 64 gigs, and this is some crucial, just basic, obviously green PCB memory. They don't make RGB SODIMMs yet. I heard ADATA is working on a RGB SODIMM, but who knows when that's going to come out. So we just settled for 64 gigs of regular old DDR4. So next, let's move on to our SODIMM.2, and what we're going to be putting in this is nothing really special. It's just an Asgard 256GB NVMe SSD as our boot drive. This is a pretty cool boot drive. I had to order it special from China because Asgard is a Chinese brand. You might remember this from a video I made called My $5,000 Gaming PC Sucks. And in that video, that's what we talked about. Where's my screwdriver? So we're going to... God, why? So we're just going to unscrew the... Well, one screw. Oh no. The standoff's coming off too. No. And it just, again, it's basically just a M.2, but one thing I want to talk about on this chip, on this little board real quick, before we mount that is you'll notice there's and you probably can't see it from there. Let's see if I can zoom in. Maybe I'll downscale the video quality so I can zoom in effectively. If you can see on this board, there appears to be a lot of chips and transistors, or whatever they're called and such, that kind of seem unnecessary for just a simple pin-to-pin conversion. I don't know if this is like a modified PCIe slot to basically fit the SODIMM standard. I don't even know why they use SODIMM. They could just put a simple, slot of some kind. But that's because I'm pretty sure there is something more to this board than meets the eye. Because here's the thing that I forgot to talk about because I completely didn't know. This is the chipset. It's kind of small. And for X299, the amount of PCIe lanes and I/O and stuff that you can have is insane. So having a chipset that small is kind of odd. And that's why when I was reading the spec sheet for this board, I found something weird. If this is not in the board when you try to boot the board, none of the I/O in the back will work. None of the USBs, none of the Ethernet ports will actually work. And that's because, as far as I believe, I could not actually find any documentation proving this, but as far as I know, based on that, one of these chips, or some of these chips, are also part of the I/O controller. As in, some of the chipset, some of the things that are usually controlled by the chipset, which is kind of an I/O hub, are actually on this DIMM.2 board. But that's, or SODIMM.2, my bad. But that's besides the point. So I just thought that was really interesting, and we'll talk about another thing in a little bit. So we're just going to basically mount that as you would any M.2 SSD, and it only has one. Some SODIMM.2s and DIMM.2s do have two, which would be pretty cool. There's usually one on the other side, but this time there's not. And we're just going to slot that in like a normal SODIMM. Now, I wanted to, and I was really thinking about trying to put a regular SODIMM in there and seeing what happens. Yeah, again, with the whole I can't afford to break my motherboard kind of thing, so let's just not do that. Now, another thing, speaking of kind of, you know, what a lot of ITX motherboards do is they have these outboard, you know, add-in boards that connect to weird connectors like a SODIMM or a M.2. And there's another one on the other side. And this one made me real mad because I tried to build this before. I didn't record it. I was just kind of testing the build. I was going to be like, if I was able to get it fully built, which I wasn't expecting to because I wanted to see what I had to buy new. If I got it fully built in that moment, I was just going to make the video like, hey guys, look at, and then let's upgrade it, and it'd be cool. But it wasn't booting, and I was scared to hell that I had broken it trying to get it in the case. Turns out, if this front panel board, which by all physical, you know, appearance, it looks like it's just an M.2 slot, which it is a standard M.2 slot, I checked, to add-in board with 6 SATA ports, 1 USB 2.0 front panel header, and 1 USB 3 front panel header, and that's it. Well, it turns out if that's not in the board will not turn on. Crazy, right? So that's, I don't know what's on it. I don't see any other, it looks like just traces leading to the, and little connectors leading to the SATA and USB ports, but I guess not. Even though we won't be using any of these, because not only can we not fit any SATA drives, we can't, there's no front panel on our case at all. So it's completely useless, but I just thought, that's kind of dumb. Why does it have to be in there? But it does, so I guess some function of the on button is there too. Now, this is only 256 gigabyte SSD, and for just a streaming PC, which this will mostly be, that's enough. But I kind of want to use it as a recording PC and also a gaming PC on the side, so a tiny little 512 gigabyte, apparently NVMe according to the manufacturer, but it is missing some of the data connectors to make it NVMe, so I don't really know. But whatever, NVMe drive from Western Digital. Little NVMe drive, we're going to put it on the bottom, well, top, bottom, I don't know, this M.2 slot. And this one is going, oh no. Well guys, looks like I lied. We are going to be switching our M.2s around because this one will not, the little one will not properly mount on there because it's stupid and no one has proper mounting for it. Because why should they? So we will have to put this on the back. None of the screws in this thing are magnetic, and I have no idea why. Dude, it's 2020. Why aren't your screws magnetic? And we're just going to mount, oh my god, the Asgard drive to the back. Okay, it would have looked a lot cooler with the Asgard drive being more visible, but I guess since this drive decides to be a stupid form factor, well, length I should say, we have to put it in our cool SODIMM.2, and now it looks kind of dumb, but that's absolutely fine because the build will still be freaking awesome. And that's really it for the board, come to think of it. We've got our Asgard SSD that will be our boot drive on the back, although either one could be used as a boot drive because this one also has Windows on it. We've got 64 gigabytes of DDR4 2666 SODIMM memory, which I'm, again, just super happy about. I love that. We've got a 512 gigabyte NVMe SSD in our SODIMM.2. We've got our i7-9800X, all in a dense little motherboard. And I mean dense. This board wastes no space getting this thing on, getting all of this stuff on this board. And that's it for this part of the video. In the next video, we will be trying to, get this mounted into our case and put on its cooler, which I want to save for next video, which will be a surprise. And I really want to try to get a sponsor based around what we're going to be using for the cooling, although I doubt it's going to happen. But that's the point. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys kind of enjoyed. I love you guys. I'll see you next one. Peace.